What time is it?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live!
Hello and welcome to the Roundtable here on Martial Arts Chat podcast, and we're back with our panel's help giving us their thoughts on last night's UFC 211 and of course answering your fan questions as well. Before I introduce tonight's panel, it's time to announce the winner of our competition, and it was for your chance to win some Tanko fight gear. We simply asked you to predict the winner of last night's main event for the heavyweight title, which was won, of course, by, if you don't know already, spoiler alert, it was won by Stipe Miocic. And the winner of that competition got in touch on Twitter was at Matt Kona. Matt, thank you very much for getting in touch, and congrats, you win some Tanko fight gear goodies. I'll get in touch on Twitter, mate, so enjoy those prizes, my friends. Now, at this time, let me introduce our panel for tonight's show. Returning to the show, we have Kyle Steele of the Loudmouth MMA podcast. Thank you again for your time, Kyle.
Hey, you're very welcome. How's it going, boys?
We're doing good, man. We're doing good. And also returning, we have the ever-entertaining Mr. Kevin Jones of the main event. Kev, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Live from West Texas, reporting from Dallas. You know how it goes, man.
Good to hear from you, mate. And new to the show, we've got Kobe of Kobes Korner. Kobe, how you doing, mate?
I am doing great, reeling in the aftermath of UFC 211, so thank you for being here, gentlemen, and I use the term loosely.
It's good to hear, mate. Let's get straight into this UFC 211 reaction then. I will start with, it was exciting, and I had the controversial finish, Poirier versus Alvarez. We've got the new rules that aren't in place. We saw the legal knee, and not to mention, the back and forth action there. Before I come to you guys, if I can just briefly give you my 2 cents on it. This fight, it made me remember just how good, or how tough, I should say, Eddie Alvarez is. This is a guy, as we all know, thrives, in the face of adversity, if you like. Michael Chandler fights and things like that spring to my mind. He was rocked and he was still swinging, and that's Eddie Alvarez. That's what I love to see, and I hope they do the rematch. That's the rumour, that they're going to do the rematch, so I hope that gets done. But let's get the panel's thoughts. I'll start with Kyle on this one. Kyle, what did you make of the fight and of course the no contest?
Do you want the profane-laced version, or do you want me to clean it up?
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a sad one. I was looking at the fight metrics. So, I mean, obviously Poirier was outlanding him in both rounds, but he was also being incredibly accurate. In both rounds, he had an 83% head strike accuracy. So, he was just absolutely picking Alvarez apart. And he got, he wound up getting caught with a little something, which is what caused him to go down against the cage anyway. But I think he would have recovered from it perfectly fine. I don't think it was going to be an issue. And, Alvarez lands the knee from hell. Even if you didn't, right? So we already have an issue where Texas didn't adapt the rules. I get that. Throw that out the window. He kneed the man when he was very obviously on the ground. I mean, it wasn't even close. This wasn't even a rules interpretation. I guess it's easy to say watching it on TV, but it looked very, very clear that he was on the ground. He was a grounded opponent, and that rule has never changed. If your knee is on the ground, that rule has never changed. They know this stuff. They're used to this stuff. So I think it should have absolutely been a DQ, and Poirier should have been awarded the win.
Wow. Well, I mean, it certainly became clear in the replay to me, but the audience reaction live, I mean, they seem to be under no illusions. When that knee was thrown, you heard the "oh" from the crowd, So it was clear, obviously, right away that something had went down. But Kev, what about yourself?
Herb Dean had warned him. Oh, sorry, and Herb Dean had warned him. Herb Dean was saying to him as he was. Yes. He goes, "Hey, he's down," and then you need him in the face. So yes. It's like I don't know.
You're right. Yeah, it was that one knee, and then again, he was just in perpetual motion at that point. Yeah, you're absolutely spot on, mate. Kev, what about yourself? What did you make of this fight, and would you like to see the rematch?
Yeah, definitely want to see a rematch, man. I mean, whether or not we get to, that's if in books we're candy nuts, then we don't have a Merry Christmas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But man, yeah, he's the panelist right before me was totally accurate, man. I mean, that should be in a DQ victory for Poirier, and the Herb Dean botched it. But that's the way it goes, man. I would tell you that our tech would overturn that to a DQ and sometime in the near future. But given our department's regulatory body's track record on everything, pretty much, I would doubt that I wouldn't tell you that's a given that's going to happen. Yeah, Eddie Alvarez is a tough dude, man. You're right too, John Boy. I mean, he was completely fighting on instinct, man. And as far as like Herb Dean Warner, he screwed up, man. Shit happens in fights. But it sucks. It was such a good fight, and he was coming back right then and had to end it up like that. He had a shot at winning the deal, I thought. Whenever he came back and rocked him after being rocked, it was a great fight though, man. If we can see a rematch, that'd be great. We'll see what WME Dana White decide to do on this deal, but totally in for a rematch.
Dear here. And what about yourself, Kobe? What your thoughts on the fight, mate? The no contest and a potential rematch.
Well, I thought the fight itself was absolutely fantastic. Both men showing tremendous heart and warrior spirit, like you talked about. That's a commonality with Eddie Alvarez. The real unfortunate component to this fight here is how it ended. And oftentimes we have these great fights and we end up talking about the decision, or in this case, the referee's final call, which ended up being the no contest. And I think one of the inherent difficulties here is, like someone else alluded to, with the rule changes between states. And it's not just the fans or the fighters that have to deal with this. It's also the referees. Herb Dean definitely dropped the ball by stopping the fight and going over and checking. I think he was unable to call a disqualification at that point, if I'm not mistaken. So he had no option but to call it a no contest. I don't believe Eddie Alvarez did it on purpose. He was rocked. He was fighting on instinct. Interestingly enough, Dustin Poirier started to crack as soon as Eddie Alvarez started to take over. So you wonder what would have happened if that fight had have continued, if the tide was turning for Eddie Alvarez. And I liked Eddie Alvarez in this fight simply because I believe that the loss to Conor McGregor haunted him, and he needed to get his hand raised to kind of put that behind him. And I think that is where some of that heart ultimately came from. The thing I liked most about this fight was the way that Poirier handled it afterward, getting on the mic saying, don't boo this man. He's an absolute warrior. We're fighters. We step in this cage. This is what we do. And that's why I believe they run it back. I thought the sportsmanship was fantastic, regardless of the outcome.
That's just a good point, actually. Yeah, the sportsmanship, even just for this new era of the UFC that we're in, that alone is a soundbite. That's like the opposite of trash talk, but it still sells. You know what I mean? It's like you've got a classy act there with something you can replay on a trailer. You show how it ended. You show how both men still want the fight. Makes perfect sense. You want to talk about money fights? I'm not saying that one's going to break the bank, but for sure, I think fans and people will pay to see that fight again, and I hope it gets done. Guys, let's move on to Frankie Edgar and Yair Rodriguez. And Kev, I want to start with you on this one. This is your boy from Chihuahua. I've been hearing a lot about his ground game, going into this fight. Watch out for Yair's ground game. He's not just flashy kicks. Watch out for that jiu-jitsu off his back. And he made a go of it. Frankie Edgar took him down and he was shooting for triangles and arm bars and all the rest of it. It just didn't pay off, man. That just shows that Frankie Edgar, he ain't finished yet. But Kev, what was your thoughts on this fight?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of Yair El Pantera Rodriguez. He's right south of the border where I live. And don't drink the drink, John Boy. I don't know who's feeding you this information about his ground game, but you're giving him way too much credit on this deal, man. He got sliced up on the ground, dude. Eddie, I mean, what can we say? I mean, Frankie Edgar, I don't like the guy, man. He's a Yankee. I'm kind of against those guys. And so it's really hard for me to I wanted to believe Rodriguez could win this fight when they announced it. And I saw the line. I thought the line was off. I thought he should have been a way bigger dog than $1.10. And I'm sad to say that, I believe I tweeted it at you, man. I had some illegal tamales get delivered that were from Mexico. I thought maybe it was a sign that I should bet on. So I dropped a buck on him. Had to make it back up in the next fight, which luckily I made the right decision on that deal. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, Frankie Edgar is, as much as I don't like the guy and think he's gotten way too many title shots. I mean, and this morning on my radio show, my co-host Mike kind of referred to him like he was a gatekeeper. Man, that's couldn't be anywhere close to the case with Frankie Edgar. The dude is fast as they come, man. He's probably next to Demetrius Johnson, man. He might be one of the quickest guys I've ever seen, especially at the weight that he's fighting at. Now, but it was all him. I think that in the fight before this with Rodriguez versus Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres, I believe Caceres laid out a game plan of how you could beat him on the ground, and I think Frankie Edgar took that to heart and said, I'm gonna slip this jab. I'm not gonna stay at range and get hit by these kicks. I'm gonna get inside and fire off combos, and I'm gonna take him down. I'm gonna beat the shit out of him.
Yes,
and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. I mean, it's the smart game plan, and it paid off for sure. Kobe, how about yourself, mate? What did you make of Rodriguez and Edgar?
It was exactly and everything that I thought it would be. And I tabled the ideology when I did my breakdown. Was Yair Rodriguez overrated? Not a statement, but a question. Looking at his body of work, he goes to the cards with Caceres, and then he beats up the ghost of BJ Penn. Really used Penn as a punching bag. Let's not forget who turned BJ Penn into a punching bag in his prime, and that is motherfucking Frankie Edgar.
True.
So for me, this was without question a case where Yair Rodriguez's stock was inflated by defeating BJ Penn. All this promotion, all of this hype, all of these dynamic kicking techniques against a skeleton in a cage, that doesn't work so well when you're up against a world-class fighter. Everybody counting Frankie Edgar out. Why? He goes out against Jeremy Stephens, doesn't look that great. Nobody looks for the information that he had a torn ACL. He had a bad back. He should have been pulled from the camp. He took the fight anyway because he's an absolute warrior. Beat Jeremy Stephens on one leg. You see him get dropped by a head kick, and you wonder why he's breathing heavy between rounds because he's not in proper shape. The man's a cardio machine. All of the signs were there to show us that the information was accurate, that Frankie Edgar wasn't healthy for Jeremy Stephens. When a fighter wins, you don't hear this stuff come out of the camp. It's when they lose. My back was broke, spinal. He beat Jeremy Stephens, and then all this information comes out. So Frankie Edgar's stock's down. Yair Rodriguez's stock is up. And the whole world thinks that Frankie Edgar's finished, and Yair Rodriguez is the future at 45. Go back and look at the numbers. Yair Rodriguez has been taken down by every single person he has fought except BJ Penn, including Rob Font, 5 times. Frankie Edgar brought every single tool in the box to the cage to defeat Yair Rodriguez. Absolutely no surprise to me, and I got a lot of vindication and personal gratification from seeing all the people that shot down my analysis and theories on this fight, telling me I was crazy to watch The Answer show Yair Rodriguez that there is levels to this shit. And that man is absolutely not ready. He is not the future of 45. He has a ceiling. He is talented. He is dynamic. He is quick. He's got all of these things. He's got no takedown defense. He has a long way to go.
Superb. Superb. Kyle, I don't know how you can top that, but what are your thoughts, mate?
Follow that?
It's your goal.
I hear what you're saying about Frankie, but is he better than the 1996 Chicago Bulls? That's my only question.
Wish.
No. So I was definitely one of those people who was drinking the Yair Kool-Aid, and I don't regret it. I think he is a dynamic striker, and I think that is going to come into play. This wasn't that fight. This wasn't the fight where that was going to come together. Maybe even give Yair another year, and Frankie another year older, another year worth of damage, put them back in there for a rematch, and I would probably still go with Yair, even after seeing this fight. So I'm drinking that Kool-Aid a little bit. I think he will get the tools together. Yeah, and I think he'll get the tools together. I really do. Because you see, here's the thing. What he's done so far hasn't been all that impressive. And I understand that. But you see these flashes, and he's a smart enough fighter. He's an engaged enough fighter. He has a good support system. He's very, very young. And when you see those flashes, it means a lot more, right? And other guys, when you see those flashes, it maybe doesn't mean as much because of their personality or because whatever. You know that Yair is going to work his ass off. You know that he's going to take this and he's going to learn something from it. You know that. And he has the age behind him to support that. So, I'm not that impressed with the BJ Penn win, of course. I'm not all that impressed with going the distance with Alex Caceres. Yeah, of course. I'm not it's like Kobe was talking about, getting taken down by Rob Font a whole bunch of times. yeah, I mean that's not uber impressive, but yeah, I